I think there's something to be said for like really minimal graphics with high impact, and this game definitely has that.
Hi, and welcome back to Quest Markers. On this show, we talk about video games and the stories they tell. My name is Marina. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a video game composer, vocalist, audio engineer, and your host. Today, we're back with another side quest episode. This is our more casual, chit-chatty segment. And today, we'll be talking about games we love and what we're currently playing. As always, everything will be timestamped so you can hop around. And our guest today is the lovely Rachel, who is a leader in the games industry and works both on the dev and publishing side. I'm lucky to call her a friend, and I'm so excited that you get to hear from her. And I'm also trying to convince her to get back into Final Fantasy XIV. So let's see how I do. Thank you for being here, and let's get into it. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Hey Marina, so happy to be here. Can't wait to talk about a bunch of games.
Likewise. How are you staying hydrated today before we get into your intro?
I have swapped to the good kind of fake sugar. I'm doing the organic energy drinks now instead of the Red Bulls.
Nice.
So I've got a peach mango guru punch here.
Ooh. You always have some fancy drink. Like anytime we catch up, you've got the coolest sounding drink ever. And I'm just over here like, yeah, just got a little coffee.
I need a stocked mini fridge at all times, or else I lose health.
I love this for you. I hope that you have one like literally underneath your desk because you deserve it.
It's nearby.
I love it. As usual, I've got a coffee. I've got a decaf because otherwise I won't sleep. We're recording this in the afternoon. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I currently do business development and production work with some development teams. So wide range of experience working in publishing with devs. I love helping creatives get their projects to the finish line.
You do it all, and you do it so well too. And your teams are so lucky to have you. You do.
So kind, thank you. I just feel so lucky to get to work with such interesting artists.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that resonates. Let's get right into it. I am so curious as to what you're currently playing. And a quick warning, I will be trying to convince you to get back into FF14 today. So
I'm here for it. I need a squad. I need people to help me get through this massive world and story. It's a daunting prospect.
It definitely is. It's pretty massive, but little by little. But what are you currently playing?
So since like November, December of last year, there's a couple of games that have just had me in a death grip. Cobalt Core is definitely one of those. I first got to play it like when doing judging for IGF, and then when the full game came out, I just kept voraciously playing it. It's this sci-fi roguelike deck builder, and it's super unique because usually with the deck builder, you're just worried about like your cards and collecting those. But this game has another element to it where there's a grid-based axis. So you like build your ship and you pilot it around the axis using your cards to fight enemies. And all of this with your scrappy crew of cute animals to like try to reach this thing called the Cobalt Core. And it's a roguelike, and so every time you make it to a certain point in the run, you're going to unlock more about the story and get to learn more about the characters and how they got to where they are.
Ooh, I love that. There's a lot to unpack with that. And also, I love Cobalt Core's art. I haven't played it, but I'm a huge fan of pixel art. I love it so
my gosh.
much.
The art is so cute, and I think there's something to be said for like really minimal graphics with high impact, and this game definitely has that.
Agreed. Yes. I am definitely in the camp of, can we make impactful games that are shorter, where everyone gets paid really, really well? I'm a big fan of that.
Let's make games better, faster, and cheaper. Yeah, and I mean this team has a really cool story about how they made this game. They actually like prototyped it using like boardgame.com or tabletop simulator, something
I
like
love
that.
that.
Yeah, super cool story behind this one, but haven't been able to stop playing Cobalt Core. I'm still trying to unlock all the memories. And then Against the Storm is another one I've just not been able to put down for like the last year. This one's another roguelike. I'm a roguelike lover, if you
I
can't
love it.
tell. But it's a roguelike city builder or settlement builder. It's super unique because you don't see a lot of those in the city builder space. You usually have to have a really long campaign where you're building a civilization. But Against the Storm is really special because you build a city in like 20-minute bursts against a clock. And if
Oh.
you have to like optimize it to meet certain challenges, grow your village, you get different unique villagers like foxes, humans, elves. It's really fun. And there's like a lot of it's very approachable and beautiful up front, amazing audio, really nice art. But the game just gets like can be endlessly challenging. There's so much to learn and dig
Mm.
into as you progress.
What happens after the 20 minutes?
So you'll get goals that you need to reach, and if you reach these goals and like meet the favor of like a queen who you're trying to please, then you'll continue on and build another settlement. You're basically trying to reach a certain point where you have a more intense challenge of like building a settlement against like a final challenge. And if you beat that final challenge, then you like progress to a certain degree in the run. You're basically building rank and trying to unlock a series of seals. I've spent, I think, over 120 hours playing this game,
Wow.
and there's still so much I haven't like seen or encountered yet. Um, it's so good. My brain just starts oozing serotonin every time I start playing it.
I love that. It looks gorgeous. Just the art style's really striking.
And the music, oh my gosh, the music, it puts me in a trance like state. It's extremely calming, which is nice with the the game's great because it introduces all of its systems to you in a really gradual way. But the more you learn, the more you realize there is to pay attention to. And there's kind of an endless amount to start realizing as you play.
Mm, I love that. And I like that's an interesting juxtaposition of having the music be really, really calming while I don't know how big this 20-minute timer is that you mentioned, but I wonder if the purpose of the music is to try to get the player to kind of take a deep breath and uh, be less stressed out about the timer.
Yeah, it's interesting. The average match is like 20 minutes. The game happens in like seasons and phases. So like you'll kind of predictably reach certain seasons where like maybe there's more intense things happening around your settlement, or like there's fire that can break out and start affecting things. So I think the music also has this seasonality to it where you have the cues into when certain things might happen. But yeah, it is a great juxtaposition.
Oh, I love that.
It's different from a city builder like Frostpunk, which is just extremely intense. This one's a nice, cozy one to sink into. That still is super interesting and deep.
Mm. And then going back to Cobalt Core, I also had a question. You mentioned this like grid-like uh,
Yeah.
area where that's kind of how you decide where you're steering your ship. I don't know why, but it kind of reminded me, if you've played Final Fantasy X, has or really like many RPGs will have a leveling system where you get a plethora of choices of kind of where you want to go when you're leveling up your characters. FF10 being one of my favorites because it's so striking and interesting to kind of go down different routes and figure out what you're going to give your characters. Is it kind of like that?
So, really interesting question. Also, a huge fan of Final Fantasy X. The grid in Cobalt Core is like a single axis, right? And so you start the game where you have like one ship, but as you progress through the runs, you'll get new ships, and they each kind of take up a certain amount of grid spaces. They each move in different ways. Um, and so something that is happening is you are on this single line grid, and your opponent is on a single line grid, and you get cards, and your cards might be about like do this amount of damage and this amount of healing, or they might be move 2 spaces to the right and do a shot, or just move 3 spaces to the left. um, so the really interesting thing about Cobalt Core is I'm thinking about my ship and how it's positioned. I'm chaining together moves to move left and right along the axes and like plan out a series of attacks. The enemy ships have their own movement patterns that I need to learn to predict, and so I'll start chaining these interactions in my head. And as you progress through the game, there's actually like another axis, which is like the space in between the ships, which can start to have like objects and things like that. So
Mm.
it's like a very spatially rich game where you're not just thinking about, okay, these are the cards I have and these are the effects they're going to have, but you're also thinking about how to move across space while thinking about setting up those moves.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like both of them are pretty rich narratively as well.
Yeah, I think they both have something very interesting going on for them where Cobalt Core, its visuals do so much heavy lifting to establish a sense of space and character. And I really love how they approach the writing in Cobalt Core where it's a roguelike game and the characters will like have little bits of dialogue when you enter a new match or a new encounter. And then if I complete a run, I'll maybe unlock a new character or I'll unlock a new like narrative moment that starts happening over the next run. It's super well done where there's no time where I'm ever like clicking through dialogue sequences, but I am getting to learn a ton about these characters and there's some really cool cutscenes.
I feel like I'm gonna need to pick that up because I don't think that I played, let me think. I don't think I played a roguelike until I picked up Hades. Was that earlier this
Yeah.
year? I played Hades really late, where everyone was like, "You have to play Hades, you have to play Hades." And I didn't pick it up for the longest time, and I Hades just had me in a death grip. Like, what an
Yeah.
incredible game. And major applause for that team. I can't wait to play Hades 2. I haven't picked it up. I'm waiting for the Switch port, which hasn't there's no release date, but
I've started playing it on Steam Deck, the early access version,
oh,
and
yeah.
I'm so hooked. I am stuck trying to beat Chronos for the bajillionth time.
I need to maybe I should get a Steam Deck. Maybe I'm
Ooh,
thinking about it. That would be dangerous.
it's worth it.
I feel like it would be. Yeah, because yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy a good portable console.
It's nice to get away from the computer.
Not that I don't love, sitting and doing things, not in a portable way, but
I love keyboard time.
yeah. Oh man, I'll sit in front of my PlayStation all day, every day. But
And what have you been playing?
I'm still haven't finished the Elden Ring DLC, which I spoke about in a recent episode. I've probably made about 10 attempts on the final boss. And I haven't, I think I just need to power up a little bit more before coming back. But what I've really been playing, I've just really sunken my teeth into Dawntrail, which I'm not going to give anything away. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but definitely has a lot of twists and turns narratively, which has been really
Ooh.
interesting. But I've also gone back and am playing some of the Black Mage job quests where you get them every couple of levels. And you have a short story attached to each quest. And after you finish each quest, you get a new ability, which has been great. But they're also just, they remind me, because a lot of them so far where I'm up to have been happening kind of in the first few areas of the game. It's been so nice revisiting places from A Realm Reborn where I'm like, oh man, this reminds me of when I first started the game, and approaching it with this childlike wonder. And I just had a really good time in A Realm Reborn. So
Mm.
it's been quite fun going back and leveling Black Mage. And usually I'm like, oh man, I don't know, this might be a grind, but I'm having a really good time. So
Do you normally play solo or with a group?
I feel like recently, maybe a little bit more solo. I do have a couple of friends who are relatively new to the game, and we've been running some of the extreme trials and raids from A Realm Reborn, which has been super fun because
Nice.
they're very difficult.
Okay. I'll need to join you guys for
Yeah,
those.
exactly. You're more than welcome to join us for those. They're super fun. They're optional content, so like if someone doesn't want to do them, they don't have to. But I've been very keen to run more difficult content in general. I really enjoy, even if it is, you can go into, there's a system called Party Finder, and you can, it's almost like a virtual bulletin board where you can go up and say, hey, I want to run, this content, and I'm looking for a group of 8 people to run it with me. And then people can kind of join your party, or you can join someone else's party. And even that's been really fun, just like joining people for harder content. And the etiquette is like, don't use, they're called roulettes, for like extreme content, because then people unknowingly will go into something really, really difficult when they're maybe just trying to, do their daily dungeon, or, their daily trial or daily raid, where people typically, want to come in and run it on normal mode versus if you go into an extreme trial or an extreme raid, it is very difficult. You will wipe at least a few times. You have to be coordinated. But I have really been enjoying just, going into Party Finder and just joining people for more difficult content. So I guess a little bit of both, right? Like I'm not necessarily on a call with someone when I do that, and you still get that feeling of playing alone, but also playing with others. And then I've been doing a lot of solo, just I'm just going to go and level my Black Mage class because my Black Mage is only level 70. So.
And you're really craving the challenging stuff right now because you're deep in the Elden Ring DLC.
Yeah, I don't know why. That's where the heart's taking me.
I think I've played 20 minutes of Elden Ring, thought to myself, gosh, I would love to play this whole game, and then set it down just because I kept dying.
That's totally fair. I think I play Souls games in maybe a different way than most people would expect, which is just go, like, explore as much as you can, level up as much as you can, and then like go to a boss and get through them in like 3 hits, which is not at all how most people play. Most people like go in at the appropriate level and will actually like have a very challenging boss experience. Not that I haven't, but my philosophy has always been like, I want to feel like I can actually do this before I go and spend like 5 hours dying to the same attack. So, I mean, it has definitely not been without its challenges. Like Malenia is still the most difficult boss that I have ever faced in any game. But I like to be very well prepared versus a lot of people enjoy going in for the additional challenge of, either being underleveled or being at the quote unquote appropriate level. But yeah, I've been having, you're right. There is a trend. My heart has been yearning for more difficult content for some reason. So.
I'm the same. Give me all the gear. Let me become ridiculously over leveled.
Same.
I'm gonna go explore as far as I can and then defeat the first boss.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's me. But maybe switching gears a little bit, tell me about some of your favorite games or amazing games that you've recently played.
Yeah. Gosh, when I think of favorite games, I mean, it's always Disco Elysium that owns my heart. And it's a game that I come back to every now and then, almost like a book, just kind of flipping through some sequences and soaking up the world and the characters. I'm kind of always searching for something with that level of like narrative depth and human representation. I think there's so many interesting stories we see in games, but the thing I love about Disco is just how human it is. But something else I've been playing recently that I'm just absolutely in love with is this game Blueprints. It's had a demo up recently. It's a really interesting first-person strategy game where you're basically navigating a mansion and you draft the rooms of the mansion, and every time you go to a door, you get 3 options, and you're trying to strategically build a path of rooms to reach a final area in the mansion.
Oh.
And each room has like different effects. Like you might find a key in this room might steal. You have a limited amount of steps you can use every day. So it's also a roguelike structure where you make multiple attempts to reach this goal. And so you're kind of balancing like the amount of steps you have, you're searching for items. It's really interesting.
That I feel like we're seeing a trend with you as well of like roguelikes.
I love a meaty little roguelike. I love just throwing myself at something again and again.
I love that. I mean, as someone who has only recently gotten into the genre, it's so fascinating the stories that you can tell in that that genre.
Yeah, there's something to as you're gradually learning about a system, also gradually we're learning about a world and its characters. That's just so rewarding for me.
Mm. So it sounds like Blueprints is a roguelike. Disco Elysium's not, right?
No, Disco Elysium is a true linear narrative game, but I just adore Disco for its world, its characters, and ultimately just the intense vibes that it creates. It is I don't normally love like such deep text in games, but it's a very different experience. It's almost like when you sit down to play Disco, you're really sitting down with a book, almost a book you can move through, a book you can see.
You're the first person who told me about Disco. This must have been at least a couple of years ago at this point.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've read incredible things about it. I don't know very much about it, but it always gets really, really high praise, and I feel like I need to pick that up at some point.
Yeah, it's got such an interesting story behind it. Development team that knew each other as scrappy artists that played Dungeons and Dragons, and this game came out of a unique campaign that they've created. There's a wild
Oh,
story here.
that's so cool.
Yeah, and the setting is reflective of like the place in Europe that they're from, and so it's
Oh,
it's
wow.
real human problems. It's real political problems.
Mm,
It's taking a closer look at the human experience than I think most games do.
hmm. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah.
That's like when I think about some of my favorite games, like Nier Automata is right up there. I have a 2B statuette on my on my desk. And it examines humanity and what it means to be human through the lens of androids, which is really fascinating. And it does an incredible job of doing so. So highly recommend. I can't go 3 minutes without talking about it. So
I still need to finish Nier Automata. This is reminding me to go back.
yes, please. Well, in that case, if I have to prioritize, please play Nier Automata, and then we can hop
Okay.
into FF14.
I'll do my homework before we get to FF14. I might have to go back to Elden Ring for a little bit, see if
There
I
you
can get
go. Yeah,
farther.
all of them.
Every
I love
game.
this. I mean, besides Nier Automata, which is a complete masterpiece, I replay it every single year, actually. I need to do my 2024 run. But I recently started a replay of Hollow Knight, which is one of my favorite games. And I mean, for the people who have played it, everyone reveres that game and loves that game. And I didn't understand it until I started playing it. And I love Metroidvanias, but you go in and I go into most games not knowing what anything is about.
Hmm.
And you enter into Hollow Knight. One of the first things you're presented with is beautiful poetry. It has this deep, rich world and a story that I did not expect to tug at my heartstrings, but it's told in a really well-paced way and it keeps you engaged. And I cried playing it, and the music is phenomenal. And yeah, Hollow Knight is a really special game. I don't know if you've played it.
I haven't. I've started Hollow Knight. It's one of those ones where I got it, started playing it, 10 minutes in was like, I'm going to come back to this. Still waiting to come back to it. It's just one of those ones where I struggle with platformers sometimes,
That's fair.
but I love the world, love the art. Got to sometimes you got to save the classics for when you're ready for them.
Also very true. Yeah, I feel like I have so many games on my backlog that, like, when I finish something and I'm ready for something new, I'm like, I check in with myself. I'm like, what do I like actually feel like playing for however many hours, to your point? Because it is a commitment, right? Like going into a game, I guess unless you're playing a roguelike, which even that's a commitment because typically, you need to do many multiple runs to get the entire story. Um, yeah, it can be a little difficult to start something that's like 20, 30, 40 plus hours long. So I definitely feel you on that. Um, what are you looking forward to playing next?
Ooh, so there's this game that just came out. It's called Cataclismo. I've been obsessed with it for a long time. Lucky enough to get to meet the devs. They're so sweet. And I'm obsessed with this game. It's an RTS, real time strategy, fortress building game. And the really unique thing is the pieces that you use to build your fortresses are kind of like Lego. So it's almost like you're making a Lego fortress with like these blocks. And then once you've built your fortress, waves of enemies come in and you see if you have, built in such a way where you can fend them off. And so really sticky concept with gameplay. The art is so gorgeous. Like I love the look of the characters. I've been wanting to play this one really bad. It just came out. I've been a little too busy with work and other things to dive into a new system, but just talking about it, I'm starting to drool. I think I might need to play it this weekend.
Do it. Yeah, Cataclismo, again, a game that has such a striking art style, just really, really beautiful. I don't know how else to explain it, but when it's nighttime, you just get this light effect that's gorgeous. The enemies look daunting and haunting at the same time. So yeah, that's on my backlog too. I have not gotten to it yet.
Gosh, yeah, the the art looks so unique. I really haven't seen a game that looks quite like this.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think it's the use of color is really unique and quite striking, and the lighting is really beautiful. And the way that things were modeled and brought to life. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I definitely want to play that.
What else do you want to play next?
I feel like I have a never-ending backlog that I keep adding to, but at the top of my list, I really want to play Outer Wilds because I've heard incredible things about that game, and a couple of friends have messaged me saying, you would love this, like specifically you would love this. And I don't know anything about it because I want to go into it not knowing anything. Also, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. I know a couple of people who have played it, and that seems to be a game that people are quickly falling in love with, which is kind of it looks like a darker game, potentially horror, though I'm not super sure. But just seeing a few, screenshots, gorgeous art style, brilliant use of color. But I've heard really, really good things about that. And then lastly, well, not lastly, because the backlog is ever growing, but I've been following this game called Bow Path of the Teal Lotus for a really, really long time on Twitter. And it finally got released recently, and it's a Metroidvania. Again, I love Metroidvanias. Same thing, striking art style. I've listened to a bit of the soundtrack, and it's gorgeous. So yeah, I'm really keen to dig into all three of those, especially after Elden Ring. I have over 200 hours in, so I'm keen to.
Wow.
To go into games that are hopefully shorter than 200 hours. I love Elden Ring, but I'm definitely excited for experiences that are just different than what I've currently been playing.
Sometimes it's nice to be able to finish something, right? Like there's something said for a world that you won't tap the potential out of for a long time. But in order to like keep coming at it with like strength and excitement, sometimes you need to have the experience of closing out a story or a world in like 10 to 20 hours.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to call out for the team that worked on Bow that they were unfortunately a part of. I mean, this has just been a really, really hard week in gaming in general. We saw the Bungie layoffs. We saw Game Informer shutting down very suddenly. But Squid Shock Studios, which developed Bow, was published by Humble Games. And I'm just going to read a quote from a Verge article so that I don't get anything wrong. But it says, quote, Humble Games restructured and reportedly laid off its 36-person team staff this week. The publisher, which is a part of the IGN-owned Humble Bundle, started helping developers release games in 2017 and publish notable games like Slay the Spire and Signalis. The resulting fallout from the layoffs has left developers working with the publisher uncertain about many plans for future games, leaving their console ports in jeopardy. The new team, according to a report from Aftermath and three of the developers I spoke with, is the Powell Group, a video game consulting company. The Powell Group and Humble Games didn't reply to requests for comment in a post last week. Humble Games didn't mention the Powell Group's involvement, only saying that quote, supporting our development partners and assisting former team members remains our top priority, end quote. And that, quote, we are committed to making this transition as smooth as possible for everyone involved, end quote. And then end quote for the entire article as well. So I just wanted to wish Squid Shock and the Bow team and anyone impacted by that well wishes, because the last couple of years have been really, really hard for the industry. So I hope that their launch went well, and I'm keen to support them. I really want to buy I try to buy indie games at full price to support indie studios.
That's so kind. It's been a really tough couple of years in indie development, and especially in like the publishing space. We're seeing a lot of different publishers shut down right now for various reasons. I mean, there's this situation with Humble. As of last week, Armor Games, another indie publisher, also. It's a really uncertain time, and so anything anybody can do to just support the people making these games and help them go on to make more games is everything right now.
Yeah, agreed. I am 100% with you. So yeah, I'm super, super keen to pick that up, and for Outer Wilds and Lorelei and the Laser Eyes as well, and eventually Cataclismo. There's so many games. I don't know.
There's so many games. I still need to finish Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. I've gotten
you've started it?
Just 30 minutes in, just enough to know how cool it is, how intriguing the world is. It's definitely a different pace of game. There's a lot of looking over like documents and understanding clues, and then uncovering parts of the world by inputting those clues. And so for me, I tend to my comfort zone is like the kind of crunchy strategic run based game. So Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is one I'm really excited to come back to and finish when I'm ready to kind of have a calm, meditative experience where I'm just piecing together clues.
Yeah, I love games like that so, so much. And I don't know why that reminded me as you were describing it. It reminded me of Resident Evil, which in many games kind of gives you pieces of information in different rooms in the areas that you're going through, and you're kind of trying to piece things together, and you're looking for keys and solving puzzles. And I don't know if that's analogous to Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. Is it a horror game? Based off of the very little I've seen, it looks spooky. It looks like my kind of vibe.
It feels spooky. There's spooky vibes so far. I'm seeing spooky implications. I haven't gotten to a cutscene yet that's gotten to show me something a little deeper, but it's definitely feeling like it's queuing me up to learn some disturbing things.
I'm excited. I love that. Give me a good mystery. Give me some puzzle solving. Give me some spooky vibes. I'm sold.
Yes. And there's a dog you can pet. There's a dog.
Oh my God. Is there a cat you can pet?
I have not come across a cat.
I hope so. I want both a cat and a dog to pet.
We need equal representation.
I agree. Anything else that you're excited to play next? Did you end up getting back into Apex Legends? We spoke about that the last time we chatted.
Ooh, Apex Legends is like one of my deepest guilty pleasures. I have a disgusting amount of hours in Apex Legends.
I love this for you.
It's well above 300. You know what? I haven't had a chance this week to crack it open, but that is one that I whip out my Steam Deck, I play Apex Legends, 5 hours pass.
Nice.
I realized my life is falling apart, and it's one of those games that's just so fun. I both want to and desperately need to not play more Apex Legends.
Okay, but you're going to Gamescom soon, and you can bring your Steam Deck, and you can play Apex Legends on the flight. Wait, would you have internet on the flight, though?
I wouldn't have internet access.
Yeah,
so I love bringing my Steam Deck on the plane and getting through games. On my last flight, I just came back from Bit Summit. I was playing Kingdom Two Crowns, which is this really interesting strategy game where you navigate from left to right, like building out a settlement. You can place a queen, a king. It's been super super fun. Perfect playing game.
Mm. That I don't know why, but that reminded me. Have you played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth?
I started it on my PlayStation 5. I'm loving it so far. I'm loving the graphics. I'm loving getting to hang out with these characters again. I
Mm,
haven't gotten past I Aerith's house.
it's a big game. That's totally fair.
Big commitment.
But what you just described reminded me of there's a card game in FF7 Rebirth called Queen's Blood, and I was obsessed with Queen's Blood. Like the first thing that I did after getting to every new city and every new town, I'm like, I gotta go find the people playing Queen's Blood. I need to go and play Queen's Blood. It had me absolutely gripped. I want to see an entire Queen's Blood game. I've done all the Queen's Blood challenges. I've done the side challenges. It's so good. And it's a card game. It's excellent.
Oh,
When you get to Queen's Blood, please let me know.
okay, I will. I need so many games I got to get a bit further in.
Too many. Yeah, I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed just talking about the amount of games.
The endless backlog. But I mean, it's such a gift, right? And
Mm,
there's new games coming out every day that are exciting and it's just going to keep growing. What a great problem to have.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. No, definitely. Any other games that you wanted to mention before we start wrapping up?
Yeah, just I'm excited to keep getting a little bit further in Kingdom Two Crowns. It's more of a slower strategy game, so it takes quite a while to like get your settlement past a certain point, but I'm excited to see just how much it scales. It's got a really nice pixel art style and beautiful music track, so it's kind of a co strategy game you can just sink into.
Ooh, I like that. I need to get back into Animal Crossing. My heart is being pulled in that direction as well. I need to just redo my island.
You'll be back in Tom Nook's Death Grip.
Yeah, yep.
But hey, at least we can own our homes in Animal Crossing.
True. Also true. Sometimes, I don't know, I still have like a million bell mortgage with Tom Nook.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is.
Gonna refinance.
Yep. Um, Amazing. Well, I wanted to wrap it up by very quickly just bringing some awareness to the SAG-AFTRA video game performer strike as well. And I'm just going to quote their website. There's a couple of things I wanted to go over, and Rachel, feel free to jump in if you'd like at any point. Um, and so I'll just quote their website. Quote, SAG-AFTRA members who work on video games go on strike. AI protections remain the sticking point. SAG-AFTRA members who perform in video games are going on strike against all video game companies signed to the Interactive Media Agreement effective 12:01 a.m. on Friday, July 26th. The vote to strike comes after more than a year and a half of negotiations without a deal. Although agreements have been reached on many issues important to SAG-AFTRA members, the employers refuse to plainly affirm in clear and enforceable language that they will protect all performers covered by this contract in their AI language, end quote. And then there's a separate piece of news that came out, I believe a couple of days after that, that reads, quote, No Fakes Act was officially introduced in the Senate. If passed, the bill would establish a federal right in voice and likeness to protect against unauthorized use of digital replicas in audiovisual works and sound recordings, end quote. Senate meaning in the U.S. But I wanted to quickly cover that and raise some awareness about what's going on in the industry, because voice actors are now on the front lines, and yeah, I hope that there is a conclusion to this soon, and that the appropriate contracts are signed, because they do deserve to have protections.
It's such an interesting topic because like elements of AI or elements of like procedural generation or like learning models have been used in games for a long time, and it's different when it's a team making tools for themselves to support their artists and to support their workflows. It's there's a strong difference between that and people training these models on works that they own and have the rights to, or works that like using these models in a way that is supporting their art team, versus what we're seeing happen in AAA, which is these companies are like claiming rights to like all assets that they have, all writing that they have or all voice acting that they have, and then they're using these models to eliminate the artists, to
Yes.
cut the artists out of the process. And that's simply not what we want to see in games. If we want to see more quality games, if we want to see games with interesting stories and interesting like sounds and art, then we need to really protect our artists and make sure that like these tools are being used responsibly and ethically. And right now, it just really doesn't seem like there's a path, at least in AAA, for these things to be used in that way. And so we need protections. We need people to be talking about these things and understanding the impacts on like what games could look like in just a couple of years if we don't make something happen now. We're going to see in a time period where we've already had so many people losing work in the industry across a variety of spaces. This is a really important fight to fight.
That's very well said. What you brought up is a really good point, and I want to be more specific in my language. When you're fighting an enemy or a boss in a game, let's say, there was a human being and a team of people who coded the artificial intelligence of that enemy. And there is inherent intent and purpose and people, again, behind that. And it's in service to the player experience, with the workers hopefully being paid a fair, livable, more than just livable, a thriving wage while making a game that will entertain and make a real impact on players as the work of art that it is. There is a great difference between that kind of AI and generative AI, which takes information, whether voices, illustrations, music, etc., feeds it into their learning model, and then generates something via machine, thereby using people's own work in order to cut those same people out of the process without paying them for the use of their work. So some Gen AI products, they take publicly available information, which is still protected by copyright, and use that data to feed into their model. They're doing it without permission, thus making it an unauthorized use of people's work, which again, that work is protected by copyright. And I'd love to get a lawyer's thoughts and analysis on this because I'm not a lawyer. Um, but it's just not right. It's exploitative. It's terrible for people because it cuts people out of the process and it doesn't pay them for the use of their work. There are very obvious ethical and legal concerns about this. It's also terrible for the environment and climate, given the massive amount of computing power that's needed for these large scale Gen AI models. I could go on, but I just want to say I wish we didn't have to go through this as a society. Workers more broadly are forced into a position where their livelihoods are on the line. And additionally, to everyone impacted by layoffs because of this, I wish you the absolute best. It has been such a difficult time for our industry, and I'm hopeful. I'm holding on to hope that we can get to the other side of this, not without struggle, unfortunately, as we've seen, but as someone who is in the industry, who is a creative in the industry, I really hope we can. And a couple final things. I'm already seeing studies that workers who are being asked to use Gen AI for their work outside of gaming are seeing a decline in productivity. So it's also bad for productivity. And the results that Gen AI outputs just obviously lacks humanity, but it outputs things that are inaccurate and unusable on top of everything. So, anyway, I could go on and on. I think I've made my opinion clear, but let's start wrapping up. Thank you for making the space to talk about this. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for coming on the show. You have increased my backlog by many, many games.
Sorry, and you're welcome.
Thank you. I love it. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just thanks for having me, Marina. Thanks for talking about cool games. Thank you for speaking out on some of the things happening in the industry right now. Super, super glad to have been here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon with me. And for all the listeners, thank you so much for being here. As always, if you have specific feedback, please send it our way. Our socials will be in the description if you'd like to follow us. And if you're not subscribed, please do so that you don't miss a future episode. Rachel, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.